Okay, here we go. This is the day a lot of people have probably been waiting for. I am going to compare two identical Paiste Bronze Gongs, both number 9. So grab a cuppa and come right back on this episode of It's Cuppa Time. As I said in the introduction, a lot of people have probably been looking forward to this because they've heard singular videos, including my own, of one gong. And I've been talking about how Erik Paiste said, well, the bronze gongs differ. They change over time. They also differ from when they're made. As opposed to the nickel silver gongs, if you buy a 28-inch Planet Jupiter gong and you get 5 of them together, they're all going to sound almost identical. Same with the symphonic gongs, the sound creation gongs. And that's what Paiste is known for, especially among cymbal players, that their cymbals have an amazing consistency. So if you have a 16-inch crash and you break it, you can buy the same one and it'll be almost identical to the one that you broke. And that's sort of their philosophy. Now the bronze gongs are a break from that philosophy because each one does have its own unique character and, as we'll see, sound. So I have two number 9s. The first one here I'm going to designate as number 9A. This is the one I got last October after I did the initial bronze gong videos at Andy's Music. And each Paiste gong comes with a little sort of birth certificate tag. This one was dated June 17th of 2020. Now this is the one I recently got. This will be number 9B. This is from the set of 7 that I got together. And this one was dated August 5th of 2019. So there's a bit of time in between them. Let's just start by looking at them. They look very similar. I haven't counted the hammer marks on either of them, but that looks pretty similar with these big hammer markings here. This one looks like it might have a few more in it. The scraping looks the same. The whole gong really looks the same. But there is a great difference in the sound and the playability of these. On one hand, I was surprised, but on the other hand, I wasn't, because having played other bronze gongs and watched all the videos out there on the bronze gongs, I know there's a lot of differences. So here's the one I've had longer. This is number 9A. Now, if you recall from the 5th video of the first series, when I was talking about picking this one out, number 9 was just my favorite. It had jumped out at me, and the big reason is because it was different. It's got a different sound than any of the other gongs I currently owned at the time. So I played it and I could hear the potential of how it would enhance the setup that I've been using, how it would really add and bring a distinct voice to things. I also back then said it reminded me of a lot of the really older chow gongs that I've heard before. They have this certain sort of deep swelling to the sound, a nice openness, and this sounded, even though it was a new gong, I mean at the time, what was this, October? It was only a few months, 5 months old or so. It sounded and played like a much older gong, and that attracted me to this here. It has a beautiful dark center tone that's still fairly focused. And I love that. And again, it reminds me of some of the older chow gongs. But then once you get it to open up, it really brings out the highs. And you get this very explosive crash. As I explained back then, a big part of that is the design here. The gong is fairly flat. I mean, it's raised just a little bit. It's almost, you have to feel it to make it perceptible. It's essentially, it's a very flat face as opposed to like a symphonic or a planic gong that has really a raised face. The other thing about this one, it's a very shallow rim. The other Paiste gongs, have a rim that probably comes out this far. So in many ways, this reacts much more like a classic Chinese wind gong, in that it has that looseness, and I think the shallow edge helps that. It keeps it from not being so stiff, so the face can really activate and just vibrate like that. So I see that as, really inherent in the design. Really a nice gong. The sound is controllable, yet when you lay into it a bit, it opens up, but if I back off, it comes down again. So as long as I keep control of how I'm playing it, the sound is very controlled. It's a wonderful gong. I've been using it in my setup since I got it. I really like it. It adds a lot with its voice to the other mix of gongs I have. So if you watch the how to create a gong setup video, I have this in there and I talk a bit more about it, and you can hear it with the other gongs. But I really love this one. So this is the number 9A, the one I got last October. Now let's look at this one, number 9B. This is the one I recently got 10 days ago as part of the monstrous crate of gongs and mallets and that. As we said, it looks nearly identical. Let's play it a bit and you'll notice it's got a very different sound, and it also has a very different feel. First thing you probably notice is it's much darker, much deeper in pitch. Yeah, that's quite a contrast when you think of, like I said, the standard Paiste gongs, which are nearly identical clones of each other. Here we have two extremely different gongs. The other thing to really notice, this one is much stiffer. That was about the same force. This one opened up, this one didn't. Had to hit it a little harder. This one actually feels like it's thinner, although I know it's not, but it's probably just less tension on the face, but it does feel thinner. I don't have to work at it to get it to just open up like that. Here, it stays compact. That's got a nice higher shimmer. This one is just dark, dark, dark. And as you may have heard me describe in some of the other videos, it's got that blah sort of sound when you crash it in the middle, where you get this tight attack, this big note, and then it kind of and then opens up. It's just where this one, once you hit it hard enough to open it up, it just tends to open up. Like, there's a little bit of that wah, like that. Where this one, it's just now, as much as I had described this one as reminded me of very old chow gongs, this one even more so. I think this has the classic chow gong sound, which is surprising out of a thin, B8 bronze gong, but it just... And also in this one, when it opens up, it doesn't lose the low end as much as this one becomes much more high end. This one seems to keep that low end about it because just the whole gong is dark. And I hardly have to hit it to get this guy to open up. It's there. Even a very soft stroke. Gorgeous sound. It's just that a nice bloom in all those low frequencies. It's just this one I'll have to be careful about playing because it takes much less force to get it to open up than any of the other bronze or nickel silver gongs I have. So if I'm moving between gongs and I hit this, I want a light sound out of it, and I hit it with the same force. Let's say I hit the Jupiter with or something, it's just going to be like overpowered. So this is a gong that really needs to be respected and played carefully. But the results are just wonderful. And you can hear that. If you were standing here, you could feel that. This is the sound of this one when I strike it in the center. This is the sound of this one when I strike it in the center. I mean, that's just to give you sort of a visual of what I experience. And the spread between these, I mean, there's a big difference in notes. So a couple of important things to note. As I said in the gong setup video, I'm going to use this one, the number 9A, in my setup where it has been. I'm keeping it there. And I'm using it over this one merely because I'm going to let the number 0, the earth type gong, I'm going to let that one take up the low end. And this will give me a voice somewhere in between that and the symphonic and the number 6 gong. I think it really fits well in the set. I tried it with this gong, and I mean, I love it, but it was a lot of low, and it seemed to kind of duplicate what I'm getting from the number 0. Like, here's the 0. Kind of occupying that same pitch area, that same low end. And as I explained again in that video, I don't want to have a whole bunch of gongs that sound the same. I want to have each gong be different and occupy a different sort of sound area. Just like in an orchestra, you have different sections in the strings. You have violins playing the highs, violas playing a little darker, cellos playing a little lower, basses on the bottom. You know, you wouldn't want to listen to an orchestra with 50 violins because it would just all be in that one pitch range, you know. Same with the brass. You have trumpets and you have French horns, you have trombones, you have tubas. you have different voices occupying different pitch areas. So when I'm working with a gong setup, that's partly what I'm thinking of. I want different pitch areas, but also too, I want different textures. Again, like an orchestra, you have a trumpet, but you also have a violin, and they kind of occupy that same area of pitch, but a string sounds very different than a brass instrument. So there's that texture thing. So when I'm putting together a setup, those are probably the two most important things I want. I want different pitches, but I also want different textures. If I just wanted different pitches, I'd go out and play with 5 or 6 planet gongs or 5 or 6 symphonic gongs. And as I said, I think that's ridiculous, and I don't understand people who do that, especially when they get planet gongs that are, you know, almost the same tuning. You know, they're both an F sharp, but they're like 5 cents apart or something. It's like, what is the point of that? Have some gongs that are very different. So that was my idea of keeping the number 9 because it occupies a certain frequency spectrum in my setup. Whereas the number 9B here, it's much, much darker, but I have that taken care of either if using the 32-inch earth gong, or as I'm going to use now, the number 0 bronze gong. So those are the considerations I work with and how, you know, how I hear things. The other thing to note is originally my intention was, oh, I'm going to have 2 of those. I'm going to sell one to help pay for all the gongs I just bought, you know. So that was the original plan. But now that I've played both of these, and they are so different, and I really like them each for their own reasons, and can hear different situations I'd want to use them in, I think I'm keeping both of them. Yeah, I really thought, well, I'll sell one of them, and that'll help pay, you know, this one will help pay for that one. Yeah, that sort of thing. But they're so different, both in sound and in feel and in just overall character. Very open, very closed. You know, it's just, I love them both. So the plan now is to keep them both because they're just unique and they're extraordinary. So let's just play these once again here. Yeah, the same force. That one did not open up. Now we get it to open. Lots of highs. This one much more mids and lows. I mean, they're the same model. They're almost 2 different distinct gongs, really. Let's try it out with some smaller mallets. Ironically, they sound almost identical, played in the very center with a medium rubber mallet. Just a little bit of difference, but you just notice much more difference when you get the whole thing moving. So there you go. The number 9 Paiste Bronze Gong. Two nearly identical looking ones, very different sounding. So this shows you how much variation there can be in the gongs. Now I know everyone out there isn't as nerdy about this as I am, but if you want to have some fun and explore a little, you can do what I've been doing, is opening up 2 or 3 YouTube windows and going through all the bronze gong videos and finding like 2 or 3 of the same gong from different sources, like Memphis Gong Chamber or some of the other ones up there. Finding 2 or 3 and then playing them and comparing them. Comparing the sound, like the pitch, that does vary between the different models, and also the sounds. Some of them are more open, some of them are more closed, some have more harmonics, all among the same model. So I've been doing that probably the past 2 or 3 weeks, doing a lot of listening, and I've probably heard every bronze gong that's up on YouTube. And, just kind of studying it and doing research that way of finding out how different can they be and possibly what makes them different, looking at different types of construction. And I'm putting together a PDF with all that. And there are, as I explained in the last video, with the number 8 gong, there are 2 distinct types of number 8s. There are also some distinct differences I've noticed in the number 4 water type gong. So pretty exciting times right now to add something new to the whole gong collective. And I have to give Paiste credit for coming up with different gongs, not just making kind of a variation on the same old symphonic or planet gong that's out there. There are enough symphonic and planet gongs. I just found a new company making planet gongs, and I'm kind of like, why? We don't need 10 companies making nickel silver planet gongs. Make something new. Develop your own sort of thing. Look at the people like Sean Acito, Matt Nolan, Steve Huback, Grotta Sonora in Italy, WAM in Italy. These smaller makers, they're making their own designs, So if you're going to start a gong company and you're going to make stuff, come up with your own thing, There's enough of the other stuff out there. Don't just copy something that's already in existence. We don't need it. We need new sounds. So I'm very excited for these. I hope you've enjoyed this series of videos on my own personal set of bronze gongs. As always, please, any questions or comments or thoughts, leave them down below. Suggestions for new videos, I love it. Just leave those there too, and I'll try to get to things. I want to know what you want to know. What do you want to learn? I'm just making a list of things. I have a list of probably 15 more videos, and I'm just making them and putting them up. But if you have specific things you want to learn about, put it in the comments. I'd love to know, and I'll try to get to a video. Hit subscribe if you want to be subscribed to this channel. Give it a thumbs up if you like all this stuff here. And there's a little notification bell that apparently will send you a notice if you click on it when the next video is out. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And go have a cuppa. I know I'm going to. Bye.